Warm greetings from the High 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thank you for joining me. Happy Tuesday to the viewing audience. This is a three-part live pertaining to R. Kelly. He and his attorneys are seeking a new trial and or acquittal of his pornography charges out of New York. He is to be sentenced on those said charges February 2023. Second part of this live is pertaining to a Houston couple who have been charged in the murder of their 7-year-old adoptive son. He was found deceased in a washing machine. And part 3 of this live is pertaining to the recovery of Quentin Simon in a landfill in Savannah, Georgia. Leilani Simon, the bio donor, has been arrested. She's facing 4 charges in this case. And I want to know, where is the arrest for Billy Joe Howe and the father and whomever else is involved? Stepfather, excuse me. 3-part live. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $ Big Angie, 129 Cash App. All stickers and chats are welcome during this live. This is a 3-part live. First subject, R. Kelly. Thank you for joining me.
Here at 5, lawyers for R. Kelly are asking a judge to grant the singer a new trial or toss out Kelly's conviction. The motions filed today by Kelly's lawyers are routine steps following criminal convictions. A Chicago jury found Kelly guilty of child pornography and other crimes during the singer's federal trial last September.
All right, everybody. That was a brief synopsis of R. Kelly's situation. I'm going to bring you something else here pertaining to Robert Kelly. 1 second. There's some information that perhaps prosecutors aren't ready. So we're going to see what we can come up with that information. Thank you so much. That was CBS 2 News out of Chicago. Cook County prosecutors undecided on new trial in R. Kelly case. This was uploaded 7 days ago. ABC 7 is the source. Thank you so much for joining me.
The state plans to continue its case against R. Kelly. Prosecutors are expected to tell the judge their decision at a hearing in Chicago this morning. Kelly's lawyer requested a dismissal since state charges carry a lighter sentence than the federal charges Kelly is already convicted for. He's facing state charges accused of sexually abusing 3 underage girls and 1 woman. He'll be sentenced for the federal conviction in February.
All right, everybody. ABC 7 is the source. Robert Kelly and his attorneys are seeking a new trial and or acquittal. Let's bring you a little bit of information pertaining to Robert Kelly. Oh, mercy. It's always something, is it not? Hip Hop DX is the source. R. Kelly's team requests new trial and acquittal of conviction. R. Kelly and his legal team are seeking to overturn the disgraced R&B singer's convictions for various sex crimes. According to the Chicago Tribune, the I Believe I Can Fly singer's lawyers have filed 2 motions in Chicago's federal court seeking a new trial or reversal of his prior convictions of sex abuse and child pornography. Jennifer Bongine, Kelly's lead attorney, filed the motions with U.S. District Judge Harry Linenweber presiding over the hearing on Tuesday, November 15th. The arguments will be heard at an appeal hearing to the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. Per the report, Bongine made a request to Linenweber for a judgment of acquittal due to several technical factors, including that prosecutors did not prove that the alleged sex tape of Kelly abusing Jane in his home was made for the purpose of producing child pornography. Additionally, Bongine argued that there was insufficient evidence that the sex tape had ever crossed state lines, which prosecutors were required to prove in court, and that the prosecution team failed to prove that Kelly had coerced teenage girls to have sex with him. Bongine's second motion asked for a new trial accusing Dr. Darrell Turner, who testified as an expert witness of making false statements at the trial. Turner testified about how sexual predators groom underage victims. Had the jurors known that Dr. Turner actively misled them, the jurors would likely have rejected his testimony outright, Bongine wrote. Prosecutors are expected to file responses to Bonjean's motions later this month. After being convicted on 9 counts of various racketeering and sex trafficking charges during his trial in September 2021, Kelly was sentenced to 30 years in prison by the U.S. District Judge Ann Donnelly back in June. "You made me do things that broke my spirit," one alleged victim said in court at the time. "I literally wished I would die because of how low you made me feel. Do you remember that?" He committed these crimes using his fame and stardom as both a shield, which prevented close scrutiny or condemnation of his actions, federal prosecutors said, and a sword, which gave him access to wealth and a network of enablers to facilitate his crimes, and an adoring fan base from which to cull his victims. Currently, Kelly faces 4 separate Cook County indictments in Chicago, where prosecutors allege he sexually abused or assaulted 4 people, 3 of whom were underage girls at the time. Repeat. He is now in Cook County. He's facing 4 separate indictments where the prosecutors are alleging he sexually abused or assaulted 4 people, 3 of whom were underage girls at the time. If you need verification for the information, Hip Hop DX is the source. Let me address Ms. Bonjean. You say here, Ms. Bonjean, that there's no sufficient evidence that the sex tape had crossed state lines. Well, the state, there were copies of the tape, ma'am. Somebody deliberately released that tape to the public. Copies were made. That's why some people around the U.S. had access to the tape and saw the tape. So it doesn't matter if Robert Kelly made several tapes, several copies. It doesn't matter. He filmed a child in the act of sexual sex, which is rape. Let me clarify that. He filmed himself with a child, which is 1, rape. 2, filming a child, persons without their consent. So it is pornography. Doesn't matter if he meant to make copies or not, or take it across state lines. He filmed himself having sex with a child. I've seen the tape many moons ago, over 20-some years ago. That's a child in one of those installments. As a matter of fact, there's several people on the tape who he's engaging with sex. It's different sexual acts with different women. One scene after the next. So what do you call that then? If it's not pornography, then what would you call it? Besides rape of a child, it's pornography, whether it was a child in there or not, point blank. He recorded himself having sex with different women. Somebody got a hold of the tape and released it to the general public and made copies. Doesn't matter if R. Kelly consented to the tapes being recopied, refurbished. He still filmed himself raping a child. That was a child in that video. We already know this. And just because he was found not guilty on that said charge in Chicago many years ago does not negate the fact that that was a child inside of the video. We already know he paid that child's family off. All that has come to light. And I do believe that person is giving testimony now that they're an adult. They can speak freely now. As far as the testimony from the legal expert, or let's say mental health care expert, was this a psychiatrist? Let me make sure I want to repeat this correctly. Hold on one second, because I don't want to repeat anything that's not accurate. Hold on one second. Dr. Darrell Turner. Well, Dr. Turner speaks from an expert perspective. Doesn't mean that he knows the client, such as yourself. You don't know Robert Kelly. So the point is, he's speaking from his expert dealings in that field, which is psychiatry. You're not a psychiatrist, Bonjean. You went to school for law. He went to school for mental medicine. So you two are not in the same league. So he's speaking about what he has studied, which is psychiatry. Grooming is what he was speaking of. That is what Robert Kelly did. He groomed adults. even though we know adults have free will to do as they see fit. But a lot of children have been coerced and seduced by Robert Kelly. So even if you discount all of the adults who had consensual sex, horrible sex, half-ass good sex, whatever you want to call it, what does it have to do with the children that he approached, ma'am? So you're trying to fluff up the fact that he approached boys and girls. As everyone knows, he doesn't have a preference as far as sex, but none of you like to ever ask that he liked children and both sexes. He likes boys and girls. He is a bisexual man. And you don't like to address that in court, that your client is a sadist, a sick freak, likes children, likes kinky sex. Demoralizing sex. Who would want to sign up for that? Because that's the whole thing about meeting people, whether they went to have sex with them or not, whomever. Nobody thinks somebody's going to want to urinate on them and do other type of crazy things. And a lot of times people just go along with the flow because they're alone in the company of the person. Possibly they don't want to be hurt by the person. It doesn't even necessarily have to be somebody famous. But you are belittling the fact that he has raped children. In one of the trials, a young man testified who was a boy at the time. He approached a boy at a McDonald's using his fame, status, using others to coerce and give numbers out to children. So I do not blame everybody's parent as far as having dealings with R. Kelly, because I was once a child. I once ran around with my friends in the city of Chicago and other places where there was no parents and guardians. So that means a child could be doing anything with anyone, including another child. How are you going to know you're not with your children 24 hours a day? So I don't jump on the bandwagon of everybody's parents was on board with selling their child to R. Kelly and trying to get money from R. Kelly. You have to show proof that he gave somebody's parents money. So basically you're saying all these parents of the minor children receive money from R. Kelly. I do not believe that. Because I don't believe half of the children even told their parents they were having sex with Robert Kelly. Who's going to believe them, first of all? Oh, yeah, by the way, yesterday I met R. Kelly at the mall and I followed him to his mansion and I had sex with him. Who's going to believe that? Nobody. Nobody's going to believe that. And that's why you shouldn't make accusations against everybody that's had sexual relations and or raped with, or that he raped, because you don't know everybody he's had sex with. You can't say that all the children that had sex, that he assaulted, their parents got to pay out, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. And we heard testimony from one lady who's now an adult who said her mother didn't care what she was doing. And when you look back at her testimony and her hanging outside the courtroom when he was going to trial in Chicago for that pornography charge, she was out there with posters and rallying for R. Kelly when she should have been in school. So you want me to believe her mother knew she was standing out there during school hours rallying for R. Kelly while he was going to trial? Hell no, I don't believe it. And she said it. My mother didn't know where I was and did not care to know where I was. And I believe her. I believe her. Now, after the fact, two cases will come to mind. One case, Miss Clary, her situation is possibly the most unique because her parents knew about R. Kelly and her trying to meet with him to sing and do this, blah, blah, blah. They should have fought tooth and nail to get their child back under their wing, because she was, I believe, 17 at the time. So that means she was still a minor, not an adult. And once again, as I said, you got to prove they had knowledge. She was having relations with a man, grown man. He was raping a girl child. What they should have done was file a missing persons report or kidnap report against Robert Kelly. Went to the police department, filed a report to say I believe my child is in the custody of this grown man. My understanding, she was going to the studio to record or meet with him. But see, that's where you messed up too, because she should have never been meeting a grown man. I do believe they found out later that she went to a hotel, but at some point you found out she was in his custody. You should have filed a kidnapping charge, because by law, it is kidnapping. And then he crossed state lines with a minor girl child from Florida to Chicago. So that is a crime in itself. Sexual assault and kidnapping a child. Coercion of a child. Many charges there. And I believe they would have stood down in Florida. So I have to question those parents, their motivations. Now, as far as the other young lady, Jocelyn, she was an adult when she met R. Kelly, possibly about 19. So she was free to roam and do what she wanted to do with Mr. Kelly. But Azriel was a minor. So her parents should have filed a kidnap charge of Robert Kelly. Nonetheless, it has come out over the years that he has raped many children. And all of them did not tell authorities, let's say. Maybe they told a friend or somebody else, but they didn't go to the police department to say, yes, I went to this man's house. He promised me this and this, tried to help me with a music career, dance, whatever, and he sexually assaulted me. Because a lot of children do not tell that their assaulters have touched them, had sex with them, forced them into sexual acts. This happens every day when they are not Robert Kelly. That's just a known fact. Many children do not report abuse and or sexual assault by an adult or even another child. Just the way it is. But nonetheless, Bogine, this man who testified, gave his testimony according to sex crimes and grooming. That's not your field. That's not your area. And I still believe he would have been found guilty even without that testimony, because others testified, not just that doctor. And one doesn't negate the other. He's still a sadist, whether the doctor testified or not. You still would have had people testifying with or without the doctor's testimony. He is there to show what happens in the mind of the sadist towards the child, towards a victim. That's his job. So to try to put the whole trial on one doctor's testimony is very ignorant. And it's ignorant and it's vile, considering this is a case about sexual assault. So naturally, they're going to have an expert witness to give testimony about the sadist and that type of behavior. And you know that. And it doesn't matter if some charge was thrown out or he didn't stand account for. He still was found guilty. And I believe when he goes to Chicago, he will still be found guilty. And even if they find him innocent in Chicago, he still is facing 30 years out of New York. And that's why you want the 30 years thrown out, new trial, acquittal, because you hoping that in Chicago, the great people of Chicago will show him favor, as they did many years ago. Well, hopefully this will be a new batch of civilians that will stand on the jury panel. And they will find him guilty. I'm going to bring you some information also pertaining to somebody who was working with him, who was found guilty on stalking one of the victims, to show you that if R. Kelly was so innocent, then why were the people working with him blackmailing other people, other women? Since a person doesn't have anything to hide, they don't need to go to somebody as a henchman to try to threaten them in any way, threaten their family. This has happened to one of the victims. So my thing is, R. Kelly must have been guilty, because why was he using people to taunt other people, blackmail the women? I'm going to bring you that set information. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans. I'm going to bring you several contents pertaining to Robert Kelly. BBC News is the source. R. Kelly's ex-manager jailed for stalking abuse victim. This was uploaded 4 days ago. R. Kelly's former manager has been sentenced to 20 months in prison for stalking and harassing one of women Kelly abused. Using an alias, he published explicit photos of her online in an attempt to stop her testifying against his client. Kelly was ultimately convicted of sex trafficking, racketeering, and sentenced to 30 years in prison. Prosecutors said Russell, a self-described manager, advisor, and friend to Kelly, used reprehensible tactics against the unnamed victim and her mother after she filed a civil case against the singer in 2018. He continued to harass them when it became clear that she was cited in New York State criminal case against Kelly and was likely to testify. Between November 2018 and February 2020, Russell threatened to reveal sexually explicit photographs of the woman, sending texts that read, "Pull the plug or you will be exposed." In 2019, he created a Facebook page under the alias Dunn and posted screenshots of text messages between Kelly and the victim, including the same sexually explicit photographs. He later appeared on 2 separate YouTube broadcasts defending Kelly, where he again displayed the photographs. Ahead of his sentencing, Russell's lawyers argued he should not receive jail time, saying he had led an otherwise exemplary life before crossing the line in his attempts to curry favor with Robert Kelly. But prosecutors disagreed, saying it was important to show victims the law was on their side. The punishment meted out to this defendant today is a victory for crime victims, particularly those of sexual assault and abuse, who are often reluctant to come forward to law enforcement or pursue legal recourse, given the trauma and fear of retaliation associated with publicly discussing their experiences, said Breon Peace, U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York. Separate from the stalking charges, Russell was also convicted in July of making a hoax call, claiming that a gunman was about to open fire on a Manhattan theater and was about to premiere the Surviving R. Kelly documentary that ultimately prompted criminal charges against the singer. He will be sentenced on those charges next week. Kelly was one of the biggest R&B stars of the 1990s, 2000s, scoring hits like I Believe I Can Fly, Ignition, Remix, and Bump and Grind. Although rumors of sexual misconduct followed him for years, he evaded charges until 2019 Surviving R. Kelly documentary prompted prosecutors to appeal for victims to come forward. After being found guilty in New York last year, the star faced a separate trial in Chicago over the summer, where he was found guilty on 3 counts of child pornography and 3 counts of enticing a minor. Sentencing is due in that case February 2023. Once again, Robert Kelly was found guilty, 3 counts of child pornography and 3 counts of enticing a minor in New York. He will face sentencing in that for those crimes February 2023, which is just 3 months from now. I want to address this lawyer for Mr. Russell, who said his client led an otherwise exemplary life before crossing the line in his attempts to curry favor with Robert Kelly. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This man is a grown man, such as Robert Kelly, Donnell Russell. What would possess you to, one, send pictures of a naked woman to herself to blackmail her, and showing favor as dictated in his office is sugarcoating what he did? Once again, somebody having access to pictures of Robert Kelly and another person or video, which leads me to think that maybe Robert Kelly likes showing people what he's done to women and girls, boys. Because how did this man get the so-called text messages and the video? And the pictures. Robert had to have given them to him. So Robert is a sadist. This is proven right here. Mr. Russell, why would you be blackmailing somebody? It's none of your business. It doesn't concern you. You're that sick that you want to follow behind a grown-ass man and threaten people, threaten the mother, threaten the woman, the mother, calling a fake bomb host or whatever, hoax, because this documentary was being aired, shooting or whatever. Somebody's going to be shooting up the theater. Excuse me, not bomb, but shooting up the theater. See, this goes to show you're sick. You're going from one extreme to the other. I do believe one of you, if you may be the same person that was stalking the young lady's house, going by the house, tampering with the car. Something was done to one of the family members' cars. I believe this is the same woman who was filing a suit against Robert Kelly. It might be the same woman that he gave a venereal disease to. So what does that have to do with you? See, this is where the problem comes in. Gullible people who want to following behind a grown man who can't even read and write, and blackmail people, ignore that you see the signs that they're being abused, ignore the signs that he's bringing in young girls and boys. You'd have to ask yourself, why is he with these children? You know a fucking child from an adult. Come on now. Why did any of you get involved with Robert Kelly and these sick games he was playing with these women and these children? Yes, it's one thing to be an adult and date a man that's violent, physically violent, sexually violent. That is a person's choice, man or woman. But there were many times he had children in his fold, and some of you had to have known that these were children. When you were booking airline flights for them, you had to have known they were children. And you usually have to show ID when you fly. So how did these children fly? They didn't have a driver license or a state ID. I'll wait. Stay woke. How did they fly from place to place? Naturally, it'd be easier to pick them up and drive them around via car or a bus, party bus or whatever, because you have to have ID in this country to fly on an airplane. And if a child doesn't have a driver's license, I wouldn't suspect that they have an ID either. But yet you all wanted to navigate for Robert Kelly in these sex games, these dominant games he played with women and children. So you're just as guilty as he is because you knew of it and you were riding the ride, threatening the women, threatening their family, sending explicit pictures and texts, airing it on YouTube. Why? For what? That will make us wonder, maybe you liked R. Kelly because he does like men. He is a known bisexual man. He also likes funny games with children. It is what it is. You deserve all that time. 2 years is not even enough, Mr. Russell, in a jail, prison. 20 months in prison for stalking and harassing one of the victims. That's nothing. You should have got more time. BBC.com is the source for that said information. I'm going to bring you some other information pertaining to one of his managers, and then I'm going to get on to my topic number 2. Chicago Sun-Times is the source. This was from October 18. R. Kelly's ex-business manager wants $850,000 in attorney fees after acquittal. Darrell McDavid's defense team aggressively challenged the Fed's case during the trial, and McDavid spent more than 2 days on the witness stand. In a motion Monday, his defense attorney also seemed to take some credit for helping Kelly avoid conviction on additional charges. R. Kelly's former business manager is asking a federal judge to award him $850,000 in attorney's fees from the government after his acquittal last month on charges that he helped the singer illegally rig his 2008 child pornography trial. Darrell McDavid rang up that six-figure bill while defending his freedom. Lawyer Bo Brentley argued. He said $600,000 of that is still outstanding, and McDavid must now liquidate real property and other assets in an attempt to pay. Mr. McDavid's life was unalterably changed by the frivolous, vexatious, and bad faith prosecution over which he prevailed, Brentley told U.S. District Judge Harry Lehman Weaver in an 18-page motion filed late Monday. A federal jury last month convicted Kelly on 3 child pornography counts, 3 counts of enticing minors into criminal sexual activity. However, it rejected allegations that Kelly conspired to thwart his earlier 2008 trial in Cook County, as well as to claim Kelly spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in a frantic hunt for incriminating videos amounting to child pornography. So here in this article, you hear it said the jury convicted him on child pornography, 3 counts, and 3 counts of enticing minors into criminal sexual activity. But it rejected allegations that Kelly conspired to thwart his earlier 2008 trial in Cook County, and that he spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in a frantic hunt to find those videos amounting to child pornography. I do believe they should not have rejected that, because we now know that he paid off that family of that girl who was in that video during that trial in 2008. And the fact that he was trying to hunt down the tapes should tell you something. Somebody obviously wanted it in for Robert Kelly. They took the tapes he had access to them, doubled them up, made copies for their own self-serving purposes, which is greed. I think that was a travesty not to bring forth charges against Robert Kelly because he paid the victim's family off. And I do believe that's been proven. McDavid and another former Kelly employee, Milton June Brown, also faced conspiracy charges and went to trial alongside the singer. The jury acquitted McDavid and Brown, which they should have brought them in as well. See, I don't understand none of this. Kelly's sentencing has been set for February 23rd. A spokesman for U.S. Attorney John Losh's office declined to comment on McDavid's request. McDavid's defense team aggressively challenged the Fed's case during the trial, and McDavid spent more than 2 days on a witness stand. In his motion Monday, Brinley also seemed to take some credit for helping Kelly avoid conviction on additional charges. The jury even acquitted Robert Kelly of more than half of the charges levied against him, in large part based on the lies and falsehoods exposed by Dr. McDavid's vigorous defense, Brinley wrote. The lawyer argued that government witnesses Lisa Van Allen and Charles Freeman contradicted each other and themselves. Van Allen is a former Kelly girlfriend, and Freeman said he helped hunt down videos for Kelly. Brinley also wrote that prosecutors told the jury a story that had to be false based on collective testimony of his witnesses. These witnesses provided the essence of the case against Mr. McDavid, Brinley wrote, and the government knew their combined testimony was necessarily incoherent. This is, by definition, a reckless disregard for the truth, which constitutes a frivolous and vexatious position by the government. This entitles Mr. McDavid to reasonably attorney's fees. Brinley wrote that he worked on the case for 80 hours per week in the 2 months leading up to the trial and 100 hours per week during the trial, which lasted nearly 5 weeks. He also said he spent more than 500 hours reviewing evidence, and he pointed to a reasonable market rate of $750 per hour. He also noted that the Office of Defense Attorney Vadim Glozman worked hand in hand with his law office. As a result, Brinley argued that a conservative estimate of 1,220 hours at a rate of $696 to 72 cents an hour is eminently reasonable. Whatever. Chicago Sun-Times is the source for that information. So this is R. Kelly's ex-business manager wanting $850,000 in attorney fees after he was acquitted in aiding Mr. Robert Kelly, I guess, to thwart convictions of his last trial. It's all a bunch of bull. Once again, Chicago Sun-Times is the source. All of you know he was dirty. Everybody that got involved with R. Kelly, even those last two people mentioned who were subsequently acquitted, you all knew what he was doing. All those stories of him down there in Georgia at that Johns Creek mansion, women locked in rooms, didn't have access to a bathroom, wouldn't be fed. You had to have known that. Some of you had to have known about all that behavior, all those women in the rooms. You had to see them coming and going. At some point, you knew those people were in there. And that would never work for anybody that, one, is picking up children to seduce for sexual purposes. That's out. And by law, it is rape for those who do not want to own it. And I think most of you know a child from an adult. Now, naturally, he's going to tell you, oh, no, she's over age. She's 21, she's 23. When all in all, they were under 18. You have to use your better judgment in dealing with people. You can't tell me that you made so much money off of Robert Kelly that it was worth turning a blind eye to his crimes against children and the women. And I'm not saying that everything said by all the women is truthful and factual, but the point is he has a immense sexual appetite for kinky sex. He has an appetite for children. That's been proven. He likes little girls and boys. So even if you want to scratch out all the women and their accusations, he has still had sex with children. He likes children. He's let that be known in his foreplay, being alone with one of the females, telling her what he likes, how he wanted her to dress up, look like a child. Look like a child, dress like a child. It is what it is. Story number 2. It's pertaining to a Houston couple who had a child in their possession and both playing possum about the child being found in a washing machine. I brought you this information about 2 weeks ago. We're going to play some of that content for you. This is subject number 2.
Bluetooth connected.
Thank you so very much.
The parents of a little boy found dead in a washing machine were supposed to make their first court appearances today, where horrific details came out about the child's last days alive.
Fox 26's Donnelly Keith live in downtown Houston and tells us the boy's mother was not in court. Donnelly.
Yeah, we're told mental health reasons kept Tiffany Thomas from today's probable cause hearing, but her husband, Jermaine Thomas, stood before the court as details about why he's charged with his son's murder were read.
The complainant died at the defendant's home, and his death was homicide due to homicidal violence.
Here in front of a judge, Jermaine Thomas stood for several minutes as disturbing details about old and new injuries inflicted upon his own 7-year-old son, Troy Kohler, were told to the court.
Scars all over his body, which are indicative of non-accidental inflicted trauma.
CPS confirms Jermaine and Tiffany Thomas adopted Troy in 2019, and court records show earlier this year, CPS conducted 2 investigations after school officials reported possible child abuse because Troy had black eyes and bruises. In July, officers were called to the family's home in spring after the parents reported the 7-year-old missing. A deputy found Troy dead in the family's washing machine with a bump on his forehead, blood on his nose and mouth, and
multiple bruising, patched scars all over the body, facial injuries.
Text message.
Let's go back a little bit.
Troy had black eyes and bruises. CPS conducted 2 investigations after school officials reported possible child abuse because Troy and Tiffany Thomas adopted Troy in 2019, and court records show earlier this year, CPS conducted 2 investigations after school officials reported possible child abuse because Troy had black eyes and bruises. In July, officers were called to the family's home in spring after the parents reported the 7-year-old missing. A deputy found Troy dead in the family's washing machine with a bump on his forehead, blood on his nose and mouth, and
multiple bruising, patched scars all over the body, facial injuries.
Text messages between the parents about their own son were also read in court, including one that investigators say Mrs. Thomas wrote, saying Troy told the truth about eating her oatmeal cream pies
because she, quote, threatened to put him in the stove and turn it on.
And detectives say a message from Mr. Thomas about the 7-year-old eating his donut sticks.
I need to get the locks. I'm going to end up killing him. You're going to come home and he's going to be hanging from a tree outside, end quote.
One more message said to be from Troy's mom.
I'm so sick of this boy. Like, I'm really tired of him and don't want him in this house no more, end quote.
After months of investigating, Jermaine and Tiffany Thomas were arrested yesterday. Mr. Thomas is charged with capital murder. According to court records, the 7-year-old was likely hit, suffocated, and possibly even drowned. Now, Mrs. Thomas is charged with injury to a child and injury by omission. Her bond has been set at $150,000. Mr. Thomas's bond has been set at $2 million. Reporting live in downtown Houston, I'm Donnelly Keith, Fox 26 News.
4 out of 5 Americans shopping on the Obamacare.
Sorry about that. Try to hit that button there. Her bond is lower. Why? I do believe the reason why the bond is higher for the husband is because he's the one that exacted the crime against the child, possibly the one who also inflicted the wounds against the child. This commentary says there were new, old wounds, scarring on the body. School officials called DHS to inform them that they believe the child was abused, black eyes. Earlier this year, CPS opened investigations, 2, they said, pertaining to the child. So now you have to ask yourselves, what month did they open investigation? January, February? And why is the child missing 5-6 months down the road? Not missing, but found dead in a washing machine, which will lead one to believe they killed the child because one, they're crazy as hell. Two, CPS abusing knows of the abuse. So let's just go on and end this storyline altogether. I'm surprised the child made it to June, July. I mean, I'm just stunned that he made it that far. Because if teachers were calling saying the child looked like he's been battered the first of the year, then look how long that went on that they were abusing the child. So now you got to go backwards from 2022 back to 21, back to 20 or whatever they got the kid. He's 7 years old. So now you got to ask yourself, how long did they have him? Was he a foster kid first? Then they adopted him? How did these people pass a background check? Did they pass a mental evaluation check? Or was one even given? That's the whole point of these stories. You don't know people. And I was wondering why it took so long to get an official report on the autopsy. I did call 2 weeks ago out to Harris County and got the runaround. These people don't even have adequate damn telephone numbers for you to even contact one specific person. You call one number, then they switch it to this number, then they switch it to this number, then this number doesn't work. Then I call the district attorney's office, couldn't even get through. Just one thing after the other. You all don't have your shit together out there in Harris County. Oh, do you have the report number? No, I don't. I just asked a simple question. When is our autopsy going to be revealed about this baby? That's all I asked. Well, you need a report number. Well, we can't give a report number unless you're investigating blah, 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 blah. Well, I want to thank you for 1 week later arresting the parents. Thank you. Thank you, Jesus. But that's not going to help him. He's dead. But I'm glad you arrested the parents because I played audio to the chat of the father talking about going to the door, putting the key in the door. I knew then he was guilty because he was overly talkative, talking to the reporter. Well, as you see, as I'm getting out my car, I'm going to the door. I don't actually have the key to open the door. Dumbass, she knew that when she was talking to you. Then cutting his eye up because he knew he abused the kid. The fact that they're crying about food shows you this happens a lot in many households that people don't know about. People rationing their food for themselves. They don't want their children eating their food, their snacks. As we've heard with the two children that went to Houston and starved to death. Or somewhere near Houston. The case I brought you, the two adult children, well, teenagers rather. The twins. I remember if they're twins or not, I'm getting confused. But the point is, they were starved and ran and got help. You don't know people. That's the point. And many children are not being fed properly, bathed properly, treated properly, loved, nourished as they should be. I won't doubt this was the case with this kid. He's been going to school how long, abused by these two. The mother had to have known, even if she wasn't the participator in the abuse, she knew. So you've got school officials seeing abuse. CPS opens up 2 investigations. Did not relay if they were closed in this audio or not. But once again, you all have failed these kids. You failed this kid because you open an investigation early part of the year. He's dead by early summer. Why is he dead? He shouldn't be dead. He should be out here playing with other children, looking forward to Thanksgiving and Christmas. 7 years old, snuffed out by these people who are supposed to love him, take care of him, nurture him, guide him. The mother sitting here looking teary-eyed in her mugshot. Well, that's too bad, little Teletubby. Because your fat ass didn't care nothing but eating Hostess cakes and pies. He's worrying about donut sticks, and you worrying about fucking Little Debbie snack cakes. Then you shouldn't have took him in. Because sorry to inform you, but when you take care of a child, you have to nurture them, feed them, clothe them, love them, pat them on the back occasionally. How about that? And why don't you have any children? I'm curious. Can't have children? Baby beaten. Blood in the mouth, nose. Injuries to the head. So I'm going to ask this question. Was the child dead before you put him in the washing machine? 2, did you fill the washing machine up with water? 3, did you turn on the washing machine and let it run full cycle with a whole 7-year-old child inside of the washing machine? It is a top loader, one of the older type machines. It was a black washing machine. Please go to my YouTube community page to see the said officers bringing that washing machine out of the house. Why'd you kill that baby? If you didn't want him, should have sent him back. But see, we already know that people want to save face. They don't want to let people know that they can't make it as a parent. And like I said, parenting isn't for everyone. Was he rambunctious, hard to deal with, didn't mind? I don't know. There's still no excuse to kill a kid. In this case, they failed the state. This is why I always tell people, when people love to accuse the state of this and that, each case is different. In this case, you got allegations he was being abused. Black eyes, you should have took the child from them. You can't explain blacking a child's eye at 7. If he was 12 or 13, it's still wrong. Because you're an adult. You have no business punching a fucking kid. What can a 7-year-old do to defend him or herself? Nothing. You are heavy, bigger, taller than a 7-year-old. He can't fight you back. So when the state got wind from the school, he was being abused, you all should have taken him out of the house. And I won't doubt that the parents lied about what happened. Probably told him he better not say anything or they would kill him or hurt him. And you see, he still stayed in that house many months later to only end up dead and found in a washing machine. That whole layout of that story was cocked up, cooped up, a bunch of lies. Daddy comes home looking for the mother. Notice the child was gone at 4 a.m. She's coming in at the same time the police is coming, about 7 in the morning. Just a bunch of lies. Just a bunch of lies. See, that's why I listen to the information before I make a judgment on a story. I did say, well, maybe the child was playing with some friends, got stuck in the machine. Maybe the kids were too scared to open it. I don't know. Before I judged these parents to say that they were murderers. But I knew that something didn't sound right with the father's rendition of when he came home and was looking for the wife and the child. I thought it was strange the way he was wording, how he put the key in the door, which was unnecessary. Verifying he didn't have keys in his hand, actually. Who does that to say, I walked in my house, looked for my family, I didn't see them? That's all you had to say. His eye expression, facial expressions told the story. He knows exactly what happened to that kid. 9 times out of 10, he was alone with the kid on that fateful night, day. Something jumped off about Hostess cakes, donut sticks, and he beat the child and threw him in the washing machine dead. The fact that they have text messages between the two, he's threatening her. Threatening the child, rather, to the wife in the text, saying, I'm going to hurt this kid. I'm going to do something to him. Threatening to put him in an oven. Women, they say he said it, then they say she said it. Hanging him. All these serious threats to a child because he's eating snack cakes. So now that leads you to wonder, did they even feed the child properly? Did the child get nourishment? Did he get breakfast in the morning? Dinner when he came home? You have to ask these questions because there's something very off here. And if a person is getting this angry and threatening to harm a child because they're eating food, that would lead you to believe he wasn't fed properly. So once again, did they feed the child? Let's bring some information to this forefront about these people. All audio that you've heard during this live is via the YouTube queue and on my community page if you need verification for a source. Thank you all so much for joining me. What a sad, 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 sick situation. KMVT.com, News 11 is the source. Parents charged after son found dead in washing machine. The parents of a 7-year-old Texas boy found dead in a washing machine are facing charges in connection to the case. His death was ruled a homicide following an autopsy. Court documents revealed new details about the death of 7-year-old Troy Kohler. His body was found inside a washing machine at his Spring, Texas home in July. His adoptive parents, 42-year-old Jermaine Thomas and 35-year-old Tiffany Thomas, are charged in connection with his death, announced Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez on Tuesday. The boy's father is charged with capital murder and his mother is charged with injury to a child by omission. Gonzalez says the two were charged after the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences conducted an autopsy on Troy and found he suffered new and previous injuries. His death was ruled a homicide. Troy was reported missing July 28th, but investigators say he never left his home. During a search of the property, authorities found 7-year-old inside a top-load washing machine in the garage. He suffered from asphyxiation, blunt force trauma, and possible drowning, according to court documents. Court documents also revealed text messages that investigators reviewed from Thomas's cell phones. The messages describe how they threatened to kill Troy because he ate their snacks. She threatened to put him in the stove and turn it on, court documents read. Jermaine Thomas' bond was set at $2 million. His wife's bond was set at $150,000. Investigators said Troy was initially a foster child, then adopted by the Thomases in 2019. Officials confirmed that Child Protective Services has a history with the family. KMVT News 11, CBS is the source. So we have utter nonsense here. Utter nonsense. I want to play you his testimony to the news.
Bluetooth connected.
When he gave his version of what happened to the kid. Hold on. Very sick. This information was uploaded November 17th. I'm a little late in this department because I've been behind in my stories. Thank you all so much for joining me. Try to play you the father's interview with the news.
Was found inside a washing machine at his Spring home back in July. His adoptive parents, Jermaine and Tiffany Thomas, now charged in connection with his death.
The complainant's death was ruled a homicide due to homicidal violence. The autopsy found the complainant had suffered from asphyxiation, possible drowning. The complainant suffered both remote and new blunt force trauma that was indicative of inflicted trauma.
Jermaine is charged with capital murder and Tiffany is charged with injury to a child by omission. Troy was reported missing on Thursday, July 28th, but investigators say the child never left his home. Officials have surveillance video of Troy playing hide and seek by himself in the front yard the day before he was murdered. We spoke to Jermaine Thomas back in July, who says Troy was not inside the home when he got off work.
Came home, just like I'm finna walk in the door right now. I don't have my keys, but I put my key in the door and then the door open. But anything else after that, I don't know.
Investigators also reviewed text messages from the couple's cell phone that describe how they were going to kill the little boy because he ate their snacks.
She, quote, threatened to put him in the stove and turn it on, end quote.
End quote. You hear this father speaking, looking very suspicious while talking to the reporter. I'm getting ready to walk in like I'm finna do right now. I don't have my key. Open the door, and then basically says, that's all I have. That's it. No, it's more to it than that because you killed the whole kid. They say she omitted by omission, which I'm assuming that means she told on herself and what happened. So what did she tell? Oh, yeah, I have been known to beat the little boy up when he gets unruly, but I didn't kill him. My husband did that. Who said what? Because the fact that her bond is cheaper, lesser than his, tells you she had knowledge of the child. Perhaps she wasn't there when he beat the kid, but they were having problems with him beforehand in their sick minds of him eating snack cakes that belonged to them. Although the child was their child by adoption and lived in the house with them, they didn't care for the child. So they're rationing food in the house. And this goes on in many homes. For those who do not know this, some people let their children raid the refrigerator and the cabinets, and then some ration food, and some are cruel with the rationing. They eat what they want, or they give certain kids food, snacks, but then other children, they don't give them anything. Why did you two adopt this kid? Because I'm questioning your motives for adoption. We do know that foster parents are paid monies for fostering children. As in the state of California, you still get a stipend even for adoption up until 18. The money is not the same as the foster care amount, but it's a stipend nonetheless. So how much were you all getting paid to foster the child, if indeed he was in your house before adoption? 2, what is the amount you got for adopting him? Did you even get money even after adopting him? I am curious. I want to make sure I read all of this. 42-year-old Jermaine Thomas, 35-year-old Tiffany Thomas, they're charged in the death of this child. The father's charged with capital murder. The mother's charged with injury to a child by omission. Body found in a washing machine, ruled a homicide. Sent to the Harris County Institute of Forensic Science. Is this perhaps the reason why it took so long? Is because they have so many dead people popping up in the state of Texas? Because this happened in July, August, September, October, November. 4 months later. He suffered from asphyxiation, blunt force trauma, and possible drowning. So that means there was water in the washing machine. Just answered my own question. Let's repeat that again. Asphyxiation. So did you suffocate the child first? Blunt force trauma means you beat the child. Possible drowning means there was water in the washing machine. So let me guess, Daddy. You beat the boy because he's eating up your snack cakes. You're tired of dealing with him. You want him out of the house, is what you said to her in a text message. So you're beating this kid, suffocating the kid. What did you use to suffocate the child? Your hands? Covered his mouth, face, what? Nose? You put something over his face? So we'd have to assume he was alive when he went in the machine, because you can't drown unless you are alive before getting into the water. So let me guess, you beat the little boy up, and the asphyxiation and the drowning came after you put him in the washing machine and closed the lid. Let me guess, you turned the machine on and washed a 7-year-old child in a damn machine. Is that what I am to believe? Because drowning means you had to have been alive in order to drown. Asphyxiation could be being down in there with the lid closed, no way to breathe or come up out of the water. Because most of us are going to believe a 7-year-old would be standing upright in a machine. This is horrendous. More and more disgusting, vile cases coming out of Texas and Harris County and the Houston area. Every waking day, you have nothing but assaults against children. Why did you all adopt this boy? I'm curious. What did you two even see in each other? Two misfits. Dusty-ass Negro and a dusty-ass female Negro abusing a kid, beating the little boy up, got black eyes. To state you're at fault, you should have removed him when you saw his eyes. I do not care what he said to you. I do not care what they said to you. When you saw how he looked, you should have removed him from their care. And you see more and more cases of children being abused by their foster care and adoptive parents and going missing and later found deceased. Because these people are not in the business of caring for children. They are usually just greedy, wanting money from the state to take in a child. And I hate to say this, but it is what it is. A lot of people are not taking in foster care children because they love them. They want the money. They take in the money and they do what they want and they feed the kids when they want, clothe the kids how they want. That's the end of the story. But social workers should be doing random checks on any foster care child to make sure he or she is being taken care of physically, mentally, eating properly, getting adequate clothes, hygiene. So long as they're in the state's care and you're giving them money, you should be checking on those kids often. We do know that this is a dirty business, social services. Nobody wants to be a social worker, intake worker, because they don't pay you anything. I get it. So you don't have enough people to walk around and check these houses or these foster care, but you can't just throw the kids in the house with some motherfuckers and think that's the end of the story. Then you're waiting for a 911 call to say, oh, by the way, we just found a kid in a washing machine. It's too late. Damn too late. Once again, the system failed the child because early in the year, up until July, that's a long stretch to have 2 cases open, if I'm to believe that they were open. So were they open or were they closed? And if you closed them, when did you close those cases? Because we're now talking about a dead kid who was beat up, asphyxiated, and drowned in a fucking washing machine. This is cruel. His punishment was cruel. And as our Constitution says, no cruel and unusual punishment to the inmate, suspect. But it's okay to give it to a child. Now, where are his biological parents? What was the situation for him to become a foster care child and then be adopted? How long was he in foster care before being adopted? When did he go into foster care? Where are his biological parents and family? Do they now know that the child they gave up or was taken away is now no longer alive? See, this is the sick part of foster care and adoption. The children leave a very troublesome background to go into a stranger's house, praying that this is going to be an okay family, parent, to only end up abused and then dead by the same people that took them in. And I'm sure the state is realizing they've made a grave mistake by placing this child into this family with these 2 misfits, these 2 bumps. But it's nothing you can do now. You can't take it back because the child is dead. And who's the state going to reprimand itself? Somebody going to lose a job because they placed a child with these people, continue to let these people keep the kid. Hell yeah, you need to be fired. Hell yeah, somebody needs to take responsibility. We cannot keep letting the state get a pass if we find they are at fault for allowing the child to remain in the house. There has to be accountability. It can't just be the people who killed the child go to prison. The state, you're going to have to do better, and you're going to have to stand account. Cannot continue to just keep going to work and rolling the dice with people's lives. You're fucking around with little people's lives. They didn't ask to be here. They don't want to be in a fucking foster care, but they don't have no options. And that's where you come in, the state and the people you're placing the children with. So you all have to do due diligence. Supervisor, social worker / family members. I did not hear of any other children in their care or that they had any biological children. So I'm wondering if this man has any biological children out there with somebody else besides this chick here. God forbid. So now you already know he wasn't, if he was, a good father to the ones he possibly have or had. Story number 3. Quentin Simon. As most of you noticed, following the content, remains were recovered in a landfill, believed to be those of Quentin Simon, 20-month-old child, went missing October 5th, declared deceased on October 12th, and mother primary suspect by Chief Hadley of Chatham County Police Department. I will now play you that said commentary to recap yesterday's events and to ask Chief Hadley, do you think you're missing somebody from the lineup, sir? I think you forgot somebody in that arrest report. Billy Joel should have been arrested as well, and Mr. Howe. If they are the legal custodians of the 2 boys, then they should be arrested as well. Third subject, Quentin Simon. Thank you for joining me. This is uploaded 19 hours ago, bringing you more and more content pertaining to Leilani Simon. Thank you so much for joining me. WTOC is the source.
Quentin Simon, who went missing a month ago, has been arrested. Police holding a news conference just moments ago, sharing with us the heartbreaking news that human remains were found, believed to be that of 1-year-old Quentin. Our Shay Schrader was there, and she joins us live with a recap of what we know. Shay?
We know that Quentin was first reported missing over 7 weeks, almost 7 weeks ago, and today his mother, Leilani Simon, who has been the sole suspect in his disappearance and death, has been arrested and charged with several things, including murder, false report of a crime, false statements, and concealing of another. So 4 fairly major charges there. Will Clark with the FBI said that in the landfill search on Friday, the FBI recovered what they believe to be human remains, though that is yet to be confirmed by testing, but they do have good reason to believe that that is human remains. And then if they are, there will be a DNA analysis to check and make sure that those are indeed Quentin's remains. Leilani was arrested earlier this afternoon and booked into the Chatham County Detention Center. I saw her being brought in. She was brought in a police car with a black vehicle behind her. She was in a hoodie with her hood pulled up over her head as she walked into the detention center. We're not exactly sure yet when that bond hearing is going to be, but this all comes just days before the holidays. And a couple weeks ago, I spoke to Leilani personally, and she told me that if there was any evidence that suggests that she had anything to do with Quentin's death and disappearance, that she would turn herself in. Chatham County Police Chief Jeff Hadley said that she was not given that opportunity.
We have put thousands of hours into this, and we believe that this was the right move today to be able to do that. She doesn't deserve a Thanksgiving, quite frankly, if I can go off script a little bit. Quentin deserves that.
It's yet to be determined whether the landfill search is over or not. So there is potential that the landfill search could continue. We're just not exactly sure at this point, but we will, of course, keep you updated as we learn any new developments. Live in Chatham County, Shay Schrader, WTOC News.
All right. Thank you, Shay. Alyssa Jackson, going back out to the neighborhood to speak with neighbors before this news conference. She joins us now live with more about what they had to say about the arrest. Alyssa?
Hey, Mike, as you can imagine, the neighborhood feeling a lot today. They have been involved in this since the search started, since baby Quentin was reported missing. And as Will Clark with the FBI said, this is heartbreaking for everyone. And I talked to a neighbor who lives just doors down from the baby's house who said she's been watching this. She's been waiting for some action to be taken. She's been waiting for someone to be held responsible. So she just voiced to me how emotional today is for her and how she's happy that this is finally moving forward.
I was happy. I'm glad that they've arrested her. It's just been heartbreaking. And this is the best news that has come out of this situation. I still cry. I can think of him, they'll show a picture of him on TV, and I'll cry. It happened right around my birthday. I told people that was the most miserable birthday I've ever had.
Now, as the Chatham County Police Department mentioned earlier, millions of people have been watching this from the start. So just as you guys saw moments ago, Chief Hadley getting emotional, so many people are emotional watching this unfold. Obviously, there is no good outcome to this case, but we were told that Leilani Simon will have her first appearance tomorrow in court. We'll be watching that as it develops. Live at the Chatham County Police Department, Alyssa Jackson, WTOC News.
All right, everybody. Let's read some of the comments below this video. Hats off to those people digging in trash for a month. You are true heroes. Great job. This is extremely sad case. Poor baby had no chance. Tearful to think a mother could do this. I can't imagine what the little angel went through. 1 minute, you guys. Okay. Okay, and I've got another information to bring here. Her mother should also be charged. There's a reason why Leilani didn't have custody of her kids, and yet she had custody of her kids. Let's see what the reply is. Miss Spell, I agree. However, maybe she's working with LE to testify against L. Big congrats to Chief Jeff. You can tell he really cares about Quentin in this case. Godspeed to successful prosecution and conviction, Chief. My prayers are with all. You guys, thank you for your hard work. Rest in peace, little baby boy Quentin. May you fly free with your new wings and forever let your spirit soar. You are in the arms of angels now and in the hands of the Lord and with your grandpa, and you don't have to be afraid anymore. It goes on and on. I'm not about to read all that. Let me see what else I can pull up pertaining to this crazy case. This is the latest update from 4 hours ago. WJCL 22 ABC News is the source. Thank you for joining me.
Missing more than a month ago is in jail charged with his murder. Leilani Simon facing several charges this morning, from malice murder to false reporting. Officials scoured this landfill for the remains of Quentin Simon for weeks, and we just learned yesterday they believe they found them.
We want to get right out to our Nakaya Carrero, who is live for us this morning. Nakaya, there are just so many emotions tied to this case for everyone involved.
That's right, Emma. Frank, from family members to investigators to people in our community to people outside our community who have watched this story unfold on national news. This morning, Leilani Simon is here sitting behind me at the Chatham County Detention Center, awaiting her bond hearing later today. Of course, you'll remember Quentin Simon vanished back on October 5th. Investigators scored the home, the neighborhood, then the waste management landfill site off Little Neck Road. Weeks later, they say they found what they believe to be his remains. During a news conference yesterday, investigators opened up about this heart-wrenching case.
What happened to this 20-month-old child is unthinkable. No child should be harmed by anyone, let alone the person in their lives that should be their protector.
Here's what Chatham County Police Chief Jeff Hadley had to say when asked about the timing of Leilani Simon's arrest.
She doesn't deserve a Thanksgiving, quite frankly, if I can go off script a little bit. Quentin deserves that.
Now, Chief Hadley said he believes they have a very strong case and that they've put thousands of hours into this investigation to get justice for Quentin.
And Nakaya, this is really such an unlikely turn of events in this case.
That's right, Emma. These experts were against all odds with this search, and they beat them. They searched through more than 1 million pounds of trash since October 18th, and they told us the success rate of these landfill searches is only 5%. Another interesting note, Frank and Emma, this is the biggest investigation for the Chatham County Police Department since being established back in 2018.
All right, our Nakaya Carrera reporting live for us this morning. Thanks so much, Nakaya. Well, so many things have unfolded in this weeks-long investigation, from arrests at Leilani's home to sightings at a local bar and more. For a full timeline, just visit our website, WJCL.com.
All right, everybody. WJCL is the source. Via the YouTube queue and my community page if you need verification for the information. Very interesting. Let's see what else we can find out about this chick. Yes, there should be more arrests. One second. Everybody needs to be arrested. Trying to see if there's anything about a bond hearing. Everything's just about the arrest. One hour ago. 1 second, you guys. Just trying to see anything else added. Nothing of value. Let's see what USA Today has to say. Okay. As most of you know, Leilani Simon, who was the sole suspect in this case, was arrested Monday in Savannah and was being held on charges of malice murder, concealing a death, and false reporting, making false statements, Chatham County Police Chief Jeffrey Hadley said in a news conference. And please go to my last video I made yesterday pertaining to this case. I said that she should have been arrested for false reporting day one, but in that commentary, I did not mention that is one of her current charges. So excuse the discrepancy. Right now, she's in a Chatham County jail awaiting a bond hearing slated Tuesday, which is today. It was not known immediately if she has an attorney. No other arrests in the case are anticipated, police tweeted. I'm going to go over here to the Twitter because I follow Brett Buffington on Twitter. If you like to get the latest updates pertaining to this case, feel free to go over to Twitter to follow Brett Buffington. I want to see what he has new up here. I don't see anything. Chatham Police will give us more details on Leilani Simon's arrest at a media briefing set for 6 o'clock. I will be there, and you can watch it live on WSAV.com. Of course, this was 22 hours ago when he put this out about her being arrested. Trying to see if there's anything recent. Yeah, everything's from 20 hours ago. Okay, let's see. I do follow them, the police department. Hold on 1 second. Feel free to follow the Queen on Twitter. Hold on 1 second, you guys. All right, everybody, I'm back. 1 second. Ooh, I'm trying to find Chatham County, see what they have to say. Ooh, let's see what's new. Last tweet was 19 hours ago pertaining to this case. Let's see. I don't see anything new. That's the latest. I'm wondering, wouldn't Bubba get the baby to do the funeral next of kin? Yeah, let's talk about that for just a second. While all this work is being done on the child, trying to verify remains and everything, will the child be released to Billy Joe Howe? It's a very good question, since she is the next of kin besides the father, Bubba Moss. Who will authorities release the baby remains to? As I've told you and you've heard in this commentary, still investigating. So what else are they also looking for in the landfill? So now we have to ask, what all did they retrieve out of the landfill since Friday? Because that's allegedly the assertion that they found the child's body, I guess, Friday. What all was found from Friday up until Monday? What else are they looking for in the landfill? And who will they release the remains to once they are done scouring the landfill? What are y'all talking about down there? Who will authorities release the child's body to? Bubba Moss or Billy Joe Howe and her husband? Frankly, I don't think any of them should get the child, quite frankly. That's just me personally. A father that was absentee, because you want me to believe he didn't know where the child lived in Savannah? So let's just ask then. Bubba Moss, did you know where your child was living? The fact that you said it was at least 8 months that you last had contact with the mother means that would have been the last time you had contact with the child, I'm assuming. So he was not active in the child's life. We have a grandmother who took custody of the children on the 28th of September, but was living out of town with her husband working. So there was nobody there for the child except for a babysitter. And a babysitter just doesn't count because she's not the biological mother or family of the child. It was not her responsibility to be watching children 24 hours a day. The children have to go home. They had to go home at some point. So that's a very interesting question. Who will get custody of the remains? Because Billy Joe should not be free. She should be arrested also because she had custody of the child. That's the bottom line. Can't get a pass because you willingly worked out of state. You worked out of Savannah. So that means you had no intention of rearing the children. So this is why I have been going on and on about the custody papers. The point is, who will get custody of the child? Not much to possibly even have a service. But it's up to the person who wants to hold the services. Whether purchase a casket or cremation. And naturally, They're going to do all the forensic testing they need with whatever they've recovered out of the landfill. So it may be even a while before any remains are released to next of kin. This is very disturbing news. Even in it being good that something was found with the child, an arrest has been made of the bio donor, it's still fuzzy as far as what they actually have pertaining to the child and how long is this investigation going to remain open as far as scouring the landfill and other said entities in the investigation. She don't need to be taking up donations for the baby. Why would you need donations if you worked every day? I don't understand that. Billy Joe, you should be arrested. I don't know why you weren't about donations. Because you and your husband worked every day. So there's not much you're going to need for remains of a 20-month-old. You mean to tell me you're going to spend a couple of $100 to $1,000 or more for a baby casket? Blow up pictures of the child when he was living and sit fraudulently in a church, chapel, or funeral home pretending to care for a 20-month-old that you left behind with the unfit mother. You've done enough already, which is absolutely nothing. So just stop it. And what's even more sickening is you're still on social media running that pie hole. Just stop it. You never cared for the children. You never cared for your own children. So just leave it be. You have done enough damage for your own children. That's why they're murderers. It's not like they grew up in a great household and turned into murderers. Then one could say, well, you know, don't blame the mom and dad. They raised them great. They decided to do what they wanted to do. And that's true. Because at some point when you become an adult, you can't blame parents and the people who raised you because you're now grown. Now grown. We all make mistakes. Some of us come from good, decent people. Some of us do not. Some turn out okay. Sometimes we turn out okay. Sometimes we start out okay. Then we go down some rough patches. But in the end, when you become an adult, people are going to judge you accordingly. They're not going to care that you had a rough life, bad childhood, terrible parents, drug addict parents, alcoholics. They expect you to act like you got some sense. You have to act like an adult. So it's a flip of the coin. Do we really expect people to behave properly when they haven't been raised properly? But the flip of that is at some point you still got to grow up. You got to learn how to behave. You got to learn how to have empathy. Learn how to obey the law. This is sad, pathetic. I'm very glad that this has come to fruition. Some remains found, and because I don't know how much was retrieved, but I want to end into this because I'm tired of talking about the street people who were supposed to be taking care of the child. These are street people. Very nasty, vile people who only care about themselves, self-serving. As I've told you, how you're treated in death is how you were treated in life. The fact that these people can't stay off of social media, the grandmother shows you he was never a focus when he was breathing, he or his siblings. He was never a focus. That's why his grandmother stays on YouTube. What sane human being would be on YouTube and the child was missing, declared dead, and stay on a YouTuber's channel? You would have better things to do with your time, such as taking care of your business, grown folks' business, going to work, trying to hold down a job. If you couldn't go to work, you can send in a notice to your superior to let them know, right now, my grandson is deemed dead and I'm going through a lot. I'm going to take a leave of absence from my job. You will not be on some YouTuber's channel gawking and talking and stalking people in the chats. See, people like this, I don't worry about them because they're 1%ers. They mean nothing to me. They may mean something to God because they're God's children. They don't belong to the queen. I didn't send for you. I didn't bring you here. So I ain't worried about you. And I've told people that 1,000 times. There are certain people you can't do anything with. You can't pray for them. You can't hug them. You can't kiss them. You can't pat them on the back. You can't console them. They're just certain people who are misfits, and this is how they choose to live. And this family are exemplary of that. There's nothing you can do or say to them that will help. You can pretend that you like them and be friends with them and bring them on your YouTube channel and send them Cash App donations. These motherfuckers will cut your throat and let you watch. Watch you bleed. And I would never be in the company of nobody running around on social media and doing frivolous things and the child is dead. That shows me you never cared for the child when he was here. That's why this grandmother is all over YouTube talking to another nobody that we have so comfortably given them 5 minutes of fame by talking about their ratchet asses. I don't give a damn about none of them. Because guess what? What they eat don't make me fat. How about that? Little street lingo. Since Billy Joel likes talking about the street. Well, I can get street with you. What you eat don't make Queen fat. How about that? So keep talking on YouTube. They done got pieces of a baby out of the landfill and you still won't shut the fuck up. What sane human stays on YouTube and the child is dead? Isn't that what you told Dinah McCarter when you ran up in that house? That's my baby. That's my baby. My child. No, baby, that's God's child. Checkmate. Quentin Simon never belonged to you, Billy Joe Howe. And he never belonged to Bubba Moss, and he never belonged to Leilani Simon. He's always been a child of God, and he's now with his only true father. He doesn't belong to you. None of you. He never did. And you showed us that. Malice murder. What do they have, Leilani, to say? You deliberately killed your child. See, I never swayed from what Chief said in the first press conference. Never thought he was anywhere but that landfill because I wasn't going to deter from what this man said he had. And he didn't know us an explanation to the evidence against Leilani Simon. And in this type of situation, you have to have faith that the law officials know what they're doing. And I didn't believe he was running on a hunch and seeking out people to help the child. They had what they had. And the proof came yesterday. Once again, street lingo. What is understood needs no explanation. Since everybody wants to be so jiggy about this case and get gangster, well, we can get gangster. What is understood needs no explanation. That's why Chief said what he said, and it came to fruition yesterday afternoon. Where are the other arrests, Chief Hadley? Because you forgot somebody. Billie Joe Howe and her husband need to be on the chopping block, sir. They cannot get a pass because that will also be a failure of the judicial system and process and a slap in the face to Quentin Simon and his siblings. Do what is right. Do what is right. These people fraudulently went into a court and filed documents for some sick reason. Why this woman allowed these people to take custody of her children, I do not know. I do not know if there were any open cases against them pertaining to defects, but there's something suspicious with this custody exchange, especially in the month of September. And it happening 1 week before the child is reported missing. And I have a weird suspicion that Billie Joe, you know way more than what you have allotted and told on a YouTube panel. You need to stop talking. You are an utter fool. And you would think after your daughter being arrested, you would shut the fuck up. But see, you're showing that this is who you are. You're an attention whore. You are an attention-seeking whore. And you have never cared for your children. That's why you have 2 murderers under your belt, and you have grandchildren who are no longer in your custody or your peripheral, minus 1 is also dead. You are attention-seeking whore. And I pray you never sleep right, because you don't even deserve breath, that you will allow this situation to amass to the point where it is now of a dead kid. Thank you, Sapphire. You're sick. And you're weak. Because you should have been cut ties with Leilani Simon. You should have had a talk with your child and told her about using protection and keeping her legs closed. So while you're sitting up there on that horse's channel, spewing and spewing more retardation, you should have told your daughter a long time ago, keep your legs closed, use protection, go to school, get an education, get a trade. Maybe your daughter would be more than what she is had she went and got her ass a fucking real job and maybe welded with you. You two been glued at the hip for the past couple of years, so why the fuck you didn't take your daughter to the same place and apply for a fucking job? Enough of the excuses. You see something, you say it. You don't have to give your name, your address, related information. Hang up the phone, pray about it later, or take it straight to the police department and keep it fucking moving. Or call. It is time for everybody to stop watching stuff go on and not saying anything and then run into the news to give you 5 minutes of rendition of what you noticed. It's too late. Oh, they come out, their hair wasn't combed. Oh, they look bad. Oh, they had hair lice. Oh, they look like they were beat up. Who cares? It's too late. It's too late. Gotta stop this last minute testifying. And for some, test a lion. Nobody cares about you going to the news, seeing abused children, neglected children. It's too late. That can't save somebody already dead. Yeah, I used to see them out there all day long, nasty and dirty. Yeah, they come to school hungry, beat up, black eyes. In the state, you have an obligation to do right by the children. That's your job. You can't just leave open cases on the books and think it's just going to go away. The abuse is going to just stop because you knocked on somebody's door or sent somebody a letter. A sicko's a sicko. Give a fuck about a letter. They know how to turn on the charm when you come bang on the door. Because they know eventually you're going to come. And believe me, they've already talked to the child and threatened the child or children. Don't you say a word or I'll kill you. You failed. You failed these children. You failed that little black boy in Harris County, Texas, found in a washing machine. Just own it. We made a mistake. We didn't follow through. Maybe you state officers need to have a meeting with the national government to up the pay for social workers. It's time for you all to stop nickeling and diming people, because I wouldn't major in social work either. For what? For what reason? I'm not going to go to work every day and not get no money to sit up and look at mayhem every day for $20-something thousand a year. You got cars that cost as much as a social work salary. Pay them what they're worth. Start them out at least $40,000 or more. At least 35. 35 G's starting salary for a social worker. Because it doesn't make any sense if you're going to have people shuffling papers, shuffling phone calls, also want them to go out in the public to desolate locations to check people's houses, then you need to pay them a real salary, just as if you were paying an officer of the court, police officer, sheriff, deputy. Pay them their due. Hey, this is a part of your salary. You have to go out to the homes and do checks. Make it worth their while. Thank you, Ryan. And as I told you yesterday, this will not be the first case of abuse, neglect, missing child found deceased. There are children abused every day who end up on the chopping block, such as Quentin Simon. Troy Kohler, young black boy, 7 years old, joins the ranks with Quentin Simon, found dead in a washing machine by his adoptive parents. See, there's no love in the street, whether you're adopted, fostered, or biological. Hate is hate, and the hate is real. These people have no love for self, so they can't love a itty-bitty spider. And as I said, it's okay if you can't bond with your child. Some people just aren't innately going to bond. But you don't hurt the child. That's where the problem comes in. Do the right thing and turn over the baton to somebody that can raise your child. Because we know now there are many people who shouldn't be parents, and they swear for God they love their child and children. But we know better now. Just because you feed them and put clothes on their back does not mean, their backs, that you love them. Because when you talk nasty to your children, talk down to your children, you're overly critical of your children, you're abusing your children physically, mentally, verbally. You don't hug your children. You don't tell your children you love them. You don't take them anywhere. You don't spend time with them. You don't need children. It is time for people to stop having sex unprotected. Stop getting swole at the belly, push out the baby, and then expect the infant to fend for himself or herself. He cannot, she cannot. Then you lay up, you're pregnant again. 9 more months later, you're pregnant again. So now you have back-to-back children that you don't want. You heard in this commentary, no more arrests. Well, Chief Hadley, you got to bring in somebody else because it's due. Billy Joe Howe and that husband need to be arrested because they had no business signing paperwork with Leilani Simon for a transfer of custody rights. And I believe there's some shenanigans with this paperwork. What it is, I do not know, but there's some hanky-panky going on, or hanky-panky past tense, that went on between all of the above. And I think it's very, very, very suspicious. 1 week later, we have a dead kid. There are no coincidences in true crime. Very, very rare. Very rare. And you're not going to make this 51-year-old believe a mother files all these different paperworks in the month of September. Eviction, child support against Leilani and Danny Youngkin. Custody rights switches over on the 28th of September. And the baby's dead October 5th. 1 week later. Do the math. Billy Joe, did you know that she was going to kill this baby before you returned back to Savannah, Georgia? Do you have life insurance on Quentin Simon? How interesting if we find out you have life insurance on all of the children, even the grown-ups that were living in your house. Ting. And then how will you feel if that information gets leaked out to the public and you're begging for money for funeral arrangements? You do not own the right to bury that baby or anybody. What you should do is go cover your ass up in a hole, shoveling your own dirt, you and Mr. Howe, and anybody that has knowledge that that child was dead. Cover yourself up. Too many kind people won't mind laying Quentin Simon to rest. I surely don't mind sending any type of donation money for funeral expenses. Just name the time and the place. But you do not deserve to receive any remains of this baby, considering you abandoned him and his siblings to Leilani Simon and Danny Youngkin. And as someone said on another network I was listening to today, I'm not going to give Danny Youngkin a pass either, because he was there all along. And that includes the brother Paul as well, and whoever the hell else was staying in this house. So you don't even really know who all was living in this helter-skelter. Amityville horror. And how sick is it to be staying in a house knowing somebody in here murdered a kid? The house should fold on its own, just because the earth knows dirty deeds happen in this house at 535 Bochalter. The house should fold on its own, crumble down to shreds, drywall down. Yes, law enforcement of the state should bury Quentin Simon. But by law, he has living relatives who can claim the body. So let's ask that question during this live stream. Who will claim the body of Quentin Simon? Bubba Mouse or Billy Joe Howe? Bubba Mouse, are you going to step up and claim the rights to your child's remains? Do something decent after death. And sadly, you have lost your mother and your father and this child. I think by all accounts, you should be the one to claim the body and bury your child. Do the one last right thing by your son. I frankly don't care for any of you to have rights to the baby, but by law, you are the father. But Billy Joe definitely does not need to come in 10 feet of remains of this kid, because she left him deliberately with Leilani Simon, knowing she had switched over paperwork the week before. which shows fraud. You and your husband fraudulently signed papers with Leilani Simon for some sick, self-serving reason, and I'm trying to put together the reason why. Because I want to know, why would a person sign over their rights and that same person is evicting them from their house? Maybe she thought, I don't give a F. You're putting me out of the house. You're putting me on child support. Here, take them. I don't give a F. And then she decided, I'm going to up Billy Joe 1. You want to throw me out? You want to file child support? Then I'll kill that damn kid. How you like that, mama? How you like that, mama? Or mommy dearest? You want to sue me for child support, bitch? You want to put me out, bitch? Then I'll kill that baby, bitch. Checkmate. So possibly this was Leilani's last hoorah with Billy Joe. How? I'll up you 1, you smart bitch. I'll kill this baby, and you'll still be tied to me, lock and key. Because you're gonna feel sorry for me. Won't put me out, now will you? It worked. It worked. I don't know what all these people had going on financially, legally, illegally, but a child is no longer alive because of all these inhabitants. And he deserves justice alongside his living brother and sister. And I pray for their journey in life that they will have more success than Quentin Simon. I pray that they will never know another day of illness, sickness, mental depravity by the human spirit. That they will grow up to be successful children, enjoy their youth, grow up and do good in the world, be productive citizens, law-abiding citizens. I pray for these children. I pray for all children because none of them asked to be here. And it is cruel to bring your children here and not do right by them. At some point, when you realize you cannot hold the baton, then you pass it to somebody that can. And you pray that the child will fare better than with you. That's what an adult does. And we know that people are not perfect. Everybody's raised different. Their mindset is different. Their mental capabilities are different. And this is what's going to determine how you raise your children. Some of you are going to be strict. Some of you are going to be lax. But each can contribute to the downfall of your child, your children. Because each child will behave differently under your guise. But this house is sick. That's why 2 adult children are in jail and penitentiary. 2 children are in foster care and 1 child is deceased. And I do believe it's malice murder. I believe Leilani deliberately killed Quentin Simon for retaliation against her mother and wanting out of a bad situation. She was neglecting the children anyway, so something bad was going to happen no matter what, whether she was evicted or not by Billy Joe Howe. Leaving your children unattended is a recipe for disaster. I think most of you know this. And there's no way something good was going to come out pertaining to these children. something bad was going to happen. And it did. But it wasn't an accident. He didn't get hit by a car. He didn't get kidnapped by a stranger or a neighbor or a family friend. He was murdered by his own biological mother, donor. I do believe it was premeditated. It was planned from these events that took place a week ago with all these documents being filed against Leilani Simon and Danny Youngkin. She decided to exact revenge on her 20-month-old boy's son to get back at her mother for wanting to put her out, put her on child support and trading of custody. It is what it is. I want to thank you for your time following this content. YouTube has notified me of my 2 million plus views of all my content since early winter, spring. Thank you for following the content. Thank you for my 1,200 plus new subscribers. God bless all of you. Happy holidays to everyone. Please be safe. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution and not the problem. Mind the children. God is good. He favored this death, this murder, and he got his baby out of that landfill. And I told you he would, because Quentin Simon didn't belong in there. That's not his home. He's home now. And justice will be served in the murder of Quentin Simon and the neglect of two itty bitty spiders, which is Zane and Sky. Mind the children. If you don't want to call DHS or the police, send them an email or a letter. I say bypass DFACS altogether, Department of Human Services, and call the police, because the police can see something that DHS may not see in time. Call the police. You fear for the safety of a child, just call the police. That way, they're already at the door, and you don't have to wait for somebody to look over paperwork through a DHS office. Will there be more arrests? Chief says no. I beg to differ. Arrest Village Ohio and Mr. Howe on neglect charges for Quentin Simon. And I still believe they should take the murder charges as well. That's my opinion. Many people will be out shopping this week up until Christmas and into the new year. Please do not leave any parcels, bags, shopping bags on the seats in your car. Put everything in the trunk. Go in groups if you're going late night. Do not post said items to social media. Do not tell your business. Please watch your doors, back doors. Check your security systems. Do not put boxes outside of the garbage can. Dispose of those boxes elsewhere at a recycling facility, as not to alert thieves of what you have in your house and what you have bought. Be aware of your surroundings at all times when shopping. Even when you're in the stores, people will be bumping you. Do not carry keys, cell phones in your hand. Carry a crossover bag and tell people you will talk to them when you are done shopping. Do not talk to people while you are shopping on a cell phone, because your defenses will be down. There will be people working in the stores to rob you, working alongside you, walking beside you, watching you from their cars. So don't talk on the phone while shopping. Have your money secure in a pouch, debit cards in a pouch. Put a rubber band around it. Put it in a wallet. Keep count. Check your receipts. Ask for a receipt with every purchase, in case you need to exchange something or there's a discrepancy or a fraud. And I advise taking cash to shop. That way, you don't have to wait for things to get back on the card after returning them. When exiting a store, please have your keys already in your hand. Do not fumble for your keys walking across a dark parking lot or at your car or your trunk. Already have your keys in your hand. Put all of your parcels in the trunk. Do not put anything on the back seat of your car or front seat or the floorboard. People will be walking by cars looking in them to see what you have. They will break out your damn car windows. Thank you so much. Happy holidays to everybody. Happy Thanksgiving to those who are celebrating Thanksgiving. If you are not, still be aware of your surroundings and be safe out here. God is good. God showed Quentin Simon favor. Thank you, Jesus. I'm just so happy that part of this madness is over. Amen. Hello, April. How you doing, sweetie? I'm so glad that this madness is over. Let me say this before I check out of here. Do not worry about what's being said on social media pertaining to Billy Joe Howe and that horse. It's over. It's over. Nothing Billy Joe has to say on YouTube is of relevance. It wasn't relevant 2 weeks ago. It wasn't relevant 6 weeks ago. It ain't relevant now. They are bottom feeders, and you're just adding on to the madness. Discussing these punks. Fuck them. God showed up, and he showed out. And he's got his baby boy now. The rest is irrelevant. Talk is cheap. Because had Billy Joe done her job as a mother, as a human, we wouldn't be discussing her or her children or her deceased grandchild. She made a choice to be unfit while the child was dead, to continually stay on social media. So let her lie in her filth. She made her bed alongside her daughter and her other ratchet son. That's on them. I have no pity for them. And the only person that can favor them at this point is God. And that's between God and them, not me. I could care less. Because once you abuse a child and murder a child, I have nothing inside of me for you. And that's coming from a sinner. A flawed sinner. I feel nothing. Because you don't even care about a child, that means you don't even care about anybody. And you don't care about yourself. So you let them talk all they want on YouTube. I wouldn't even flinch and look in their direction. They've shown you who they are. So believe them. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BeGanji 129 Cash App. Thank you for the wonderful stickers and chats during this live stream. Please check out my 1,700 plus video library in the YouTube queue. I've been on this network a couple of years. God bless me in this journey. And thank you all for following the content. Congratulations to my 1,200 new subscribers. Thank you for following the content. And sadly, it is because of Quentin Simon I have the 1,200 plus subscribers. Sad tragedy would lead people to everyday shenanigans. But it is what it is. God has the victory. Justice for Quentin Simon and his siblings. Justice will be served. But the other two need to be arrested. Billy Joe Howe and her husband and anybody else that had knowledge that the child was deceased or any conspiring conspiracies against Quentin Simon. They all need to be arrested. Thank you for joining me. This is Everyday Shenanigans.